Hey guys, today I want to walk you through a simple recipe on how to make these French macarons. So the base for these is going to be almond flour. Um, I'm also using this mango food flavoring to add the mango flavor. You're also going to want this sifter. This is really important to get the macaron to turn out right. I just got mine off of Amazon. And then part of the macaron is this meringue base. So you're going to want a mixer and 3 egg whites. And then this is just my gel food coloring to get it to the mango orangey color that I want. So let's get started. We're going to start with 1 full cup of almond flour. And so you're going to want to sift that into this bowl, as you can see I'm doing here. I got mine off of Costco. That's probably the best price that I found for almond flour. And this is really important so that you don't get any like lumps and bumps in your macaron, and that you make sure it doesn't crack or anything. So here I am, I'm just sifting it in, and you'll notice that once you've sifted most of the finely milled almond flour into the bowl, you'll be left with some like bigger chunks, and I just dump that out. So following that, you're going to want to do the same thing with 1 3/4 cups full of powdered sugar, also known as confectioner's sugar. So I just pour that into my measuring cup and also same thing, sift it in. Now different recipes require different amounts of almond flour and sugar. This is the one that I found works best for me. So this is what I'm going with. So you can see that's all sifted in, and then I'll just kind of mix it up, make sure it's blended really nicely. Even though it's sifted, sometimes there's still like a couple of lumps and bumps, so I'll make sure I like kind of smooth those out. So once that's done, you set that aside and go ahead and start on the meringue. So I usually go with 3 egg whites. You can also do 2. I've seen that in a few recipes too, but this has worked out the best for me. I separate the yolks from the eggs by doing this like side to side method where I pass it in between the 2 halves of the eggshell. And that usually allows the egg white to kind of fall off and into the bowl. You can also kind of separate them with your fingers, so have it kind of just like drip in between your fingers while holding onto the yolk. Then to that mixture, I just add a tiny bit of salt. And then I usually prep this beforehand, but you're going to want to get a 4th cup of granulated sugar. And as you can see now, I'm like beating the egg whites with my hand mixer. I usually have the speed on pretty high. So right now you can see it's getting foamy, and that's like a good first step. If your bowl isn't clean, it actually won't build into this meringue texture. So you want to make sure you have a clean bowl. But once it gets to like kind of soft peaks, you want to start adding in the sugar. So I add in maybe like a third at a time, and then keep beating until it's blended in. And you want to continue beating until the meringue has formed these like stiff peaks. So when you kind of lift up like so, you'll see that it kind of stays in that peak form and it doesn't fall back down. And then you can do a test where you turn the bowl over and you make sure that nothing falls out. And then you know that it's ready. So now I add my mango flavoring to the egg white mixture. I add about 10 drops. And then I take this mixture of this like burnt orangey color and a yellow color. And I'm kind of just putting that food coloring on to my spatula. And then I'll use that spatula to mix everything together. Now, this is when I will start combining the wet and the dry ingredients. I usually sift everything one more time before combining everything just to be safe. So I just gradually put my dry ingredients mixture into my sifter and then sift it into the bowl. You want to combine so that you're not beating out the air. So you want to kind of do it very gently. And once it's all filled, I prepare my baking trays. I have these silicone mats that I got from Amazon. They kind of have circular markings so that I can easily make every macaron the same size. Um, you don't have to do this. You can just kind of draw circles onto parchment paper, and that'll be just as good of a guide. So I fill up my piping bag. I make sure I have a circle tip, a round tip, and then I start making the macaron. So the trick I found with this is that you want to pipe in a spiral, but you want to make sure that the spirals are pretty connected so that you don't see those spiral lines when you bake the macaron. Also, it should be at a consistency if you've beat the egg whites to the right amount, where even if there are slight lines, they'll kind of fall into each other and form a smooth surface. So I'll just be making these macaron cookies. After those are done, you want to wrap them really hard against the countertop a few times to make sure you release any air bubbles. If there are any air bubbles, they will cause the macaron to crack once it's in the oven. I also have found that it's good to let them sit out for about 20 minutes or so with the fan on. And that helps the cookie to start to dry out a little bit. It forms like a shell, a film over the outside of the cookie. And that's really helpful. So I bake at 300 degrees for about 18 minutes. I take them out and let them cool. Once they're completely cool, I'll start kind of matching up sizes. So I make sure that I have pairs that are approximately the same size, and then I will start frosting. So I just had some cream cheese frosting left over from another baking adventure, but I am just frosting all of the cookies right now. So once they're frosted, that's the cookie. I had a little excess, so I'm kind of wiping that up. I find it's easier to kind of put the icing in the middle of the cookie and squeeze it until you can see it from the sides. I'm also really happy with the color that they turned out to be. It does look like kind of a mango type of color. So that's what we've got. And then real quickly, we have the taste test. I cut out all the audio, but I think we were just commenting on how it tasted all right. Hope you enjoy. Thanks.